everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor of chatting with bassist, singer, songwriter, Grammy nominated, by the way, Danielle Nicole. Yay! Welcome, Danielle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. There's so much exciting stuff. We're chatting here at the beginning, early 2024, and there's a lot of things going on we definitely want to talk about, but as always, we want to go to the past. How did you get started in music and particularly on bass?
Well, I got started in music through my parents. Really, my dad and mom were in a local band, growing up. So they listened to a lot of really good music. And my brothers and I started a band. I was singing like around town and stuff in local cover bands and having a good time. I was in my mid-teens, still in school and stuff, but my brothers and I decided to start a family blues band. And I got my roots in the blues. My dad was a huge Johnny Winter, Muddy Waters, Skip James, Charlie Patton, and all that. So we kind of fell into blues naturally. And my oldest brother, Nick, played guitar, and my older brother, Chris, played drums. And I was like, well, I'll learn bass, I'll try it out, see what happens. And I played a little bit of sixth string, but, didn't really have much connection. Like it didn't call to me. It was just something I was like, oh yeah, I'll try out. And I just fell in love with it. I really did. And it was a really challenging experience, because I'm a lead singer and then trying to figure out how to play bass on, because they're completely two different, compartments of your brain. But I just sat on the floor and I was just running shuffles, running bass lines, and just trying to sing over and over and over and over. And I was like, well, I'm only going to get so far sitting on my floor. I'm going to have to go out and jam. And so I started just going out, and it was a rough few months, but eventually I got the hang of it. And just over the years, my brothers and I toured in a band called Trampled Underfoot. We traveled all over the world, played festivals all over, in Norway, in Germany, over in Europe and stuff. And then I went solo, and I was like, well, what am I going to do here? What kind of band do I want? Did I want horns? Do I want a four-piece? Someone was like, well, are you still going to play bass, or are you just going to sing now? And I was like, there's no other bass player in my band ever, unless I break my hand or something. And so that was kind of how I got my start. And it was just kind of just by making a decision to do it rather than felt like it called to me, but now I'm like, oh man, I just love it. I love it so much.
Very cool. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the singing and the playing simultaneously, because again, you place yourself in a very limited group of people that will do this, because again, bass, if you're doing counterpoint and synchronizing and other things, you are somewhere else where the melody and all these things. For me, it's way easier if you're going to play like rhythm guitar and sing, because you're kind of following the same tonalities. But being up front as you are, and especially with the Danielle Nicole band, it's a trio where you've got, Brandon Miller, your husband, if I understand correctly, Go-Go Ray. So you've got drums, guitar, and you are holding it all on your own up front there.
It's fair. It's very bare, I've really kind of struck gold in my band experience now, like where I'm at with Go-Go and Brandon, because they're both fans of space and letting the song breathe as well. We're a story-based band. It's not like, and I'm not knocking anybody following their path, but we're not like a 12-minute song jam band or a high energy funk party band, original or whatever. It's our songs are they're stories. And so you have to be able to work with musicians that can find the peace in the space, because that's where the magic happens, because it's fun to do all the triads and do all the funky licks all the time and fill in the space whenever you can. But really finding the magic is working together for the sake of the song. And, being able to still be really dynamic and rip it down to nothing but quarter notes and half notes. But still bring the same song seamlessly into this huge, just climactic where Brandon's playing a million notes a second and Go-Go's doing this monster fill, and I'm just, wow.
Yeah.
And it's there, that leaves room for that. But, you can't just do that all the time. And so many musicians just want to just show their chops. And it's like the chops is working together and telling a story, to me, even on bass with the melodies. And that's why they can't be the same as the lyrics. And they can't be as simple as the kick drum, because he's already doing that. Mm-hmm. And I'm already singing that, and Brandon's already playing that. So it has to be a counterpart to it without getting in the way. And that's the fun part.
Very nice. And that brings us to, again, you have a new release, The Love You Bleed. It's going out January of this year. And it's 12 tracks of very soulful, bluesy, love forlorn kind of music, if you will. Tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah, it's definitely a plethora of songs, if you will. And it, I didn't come into writing this album as like a whole, or having the sound that it does, because obviously there's so many different songs on there, and the overall vibe of it is, to me, it's a contemporary blues album. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of songs, mainly about love, and relationships. And I think, that's just kind of the most common theme in humanity, especially in your adult life, is relationships with, whether it's people or coworkers, lovers, friends, but what's different about this record, I think, for me as the songwriter aspect of it is, I was in a much more positive place. This was before, I wrote most of these songs prior to the shutdown. Yes. Prior to my brother getting cancer, and I had fallen in love with my current husband. And so a lot of these songs were, written about the love that I had lost prior to that. But a lot of it was coming out of that and finding love in the hardship, and, really defining all of the aspects of love, because you're not always the hero and you're not always the victim. And you know what I mean? It's just like, there's no shame in being so madly in love with somebody that you feel like you need them to complete you. There's a lot of, individuality, and there's a lot of empowerment that is going around now. And I appreciate that, but I think there's also strength in needing other people as well. And so these songs had come in, some of them came in as grooves on a bass line, and some of them I wrote on guitar, and some of them just came to me lyrically. But I think that's kind of the overall difference because all my previous stuff is just like, man, that it's a hard perspective. A lot of songs about the negative side of love, and while that's still a reality in the album and in my life and in what, I write what's happening to me at the time. And, I wrote another song that kind of mimicked my father's journey on this album, and that was Head Down Low. But other than that, there's a lot of songs about the good side of love, the happy side of love.
The universal thing is, it is something that a listening public can identify with, because all of us have, in the journey of life, if we only knew then what we know now, which is kind of just the irony of it, because you think of like growing up and how things didn't work, or you couldn't understand, or why it was so painful. And when you can discover, you can be at a point where you go, it didn't have to be this way. And this is this happy, I'm glad you're in this happy zone, but you're able to share, because a lot of times I've actually listened to some albums where it was more a catharsis of somebody just venting all of their anguish and their pain.
Right.
And by the time you're said and done, you're going, oh my gosh, I've listened to this album. Now I'm depressed. There needs to be something a little more uplifting here. And there's quite a variety in your album.
Yeah. And and that was, I started writing these songs and started seeing that as a common theme. And it really inspired me to write more about that, and about the lighter side of love. And, and you go through, even though you go through hell and back to get there, it's worth discussing every step of the way. And and then there's songs like Walk On By, which is like totally situational, about not just watching somebody struggle, not just, you can't just leave them there, you can't just let them be just lying on the floor, man. You got to help them up, give them a hand, and and I just feel like it's missing a lot right now, just in daily life and daily humanity, especially in the States. It's a real hard time, so it was like, oh, I'm glad I'm in this place now, because I feel like I'm contributing to more of a positive side, more of a humble side, more of a, you got to be vulnerable, and that's hard to do. We've hardened our hearts. People just want to forget about it and not talk about it. But the whole shutdown and COVID, man, people lost everything, and then they lost people they love.
Yeah.
On top of losing their job, on top of losing their home, on top of losing their life savings, and starting from nothing. And everything's 3 times as expensive now. It's like, there's a problem, and people are just shoving that down because they just want to forget about it. And it's hardened us. And it's, so I try to encourage people to just be vulnerable and feel the songs, and, let it out, just, howl at the moon, let out a sigh, just acknowledge it, and just stop hiding from it, because it doesn't help. It doesn't change anything.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important that they can know that somebody's feeling something similar to what they're feeling as well, because
absolutely,
we're so often so alone, and we just think, oh no, this is just me. And you can't see outside of your own perimeter because it's so complicated. But yeah, with so much music, and I guess we can go kind of historically back. Some of the greatest songs have been ones that people could go, yeah, that's my song. Whether it's extraordinarily happy.
Yeah.
It could be like, oh, there was my happy tune. Or how many times have we heard, especially when you're a teenager and you're in the early first love, and we have a song together because you happen to hear it at the same time.
I repeat over and over, and your siblings are knocking down your door, play a different song. You're like, no, you don't understand. But coming for music, that's what's so cool about that connect. You connect with it, and you don't know why, but and then you hear it, years later, and whether it makes you laugh or go, oh my gosh, or
what was I thinking?
What was I thinking? But it still invokes, but it stays with you, and it still invokes something in you later, whether it's 5, 10, 20 years down the line, because it's eternal, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Indeed.
You get the right connection, even if it's just 10 people, man. Mm-hmm. That's 10 lives. That's
absolutely. And we should talk a little bit about your sound. And you've got 2 components going on. Number one, you've got this amazing smoky voice, which works perfectly with the music that you're playing. It's like, okay, this is so spot on. But we should talk about jazz. There we go. We should talk about your bass sound. What are you playing on, and how are you getting your sound?
Yeah. No, my sound, as far as when I'm touring and I get my say and I get to use my gear, I blend. I have a Mark bass 410, and then with a center port, and then I've got the little tube, the 800 mm-hmm. that I use with that, and then I pair it with a 1965 212 Bassman.
Okay.
And it's mid 60s, so it's either between 4 to 7, I guess. So, and I blend those together, and the reason that I do that is the Mark bass is so really clear, and I don't use a lot of pedals. I very rarely use. I have like distortion, delay, and octave, but I really don't ever mess with them. I'm like, I just carry them, because if I don't have them, then I'm like, man, I wanted to use that tonight. And Brandon would be like, no, you didn't. He's like, no lie. But anyway, the reason that I like the Mark bass is they're such a full-bodied sound. Mm-hmm. and they're really clean and really clear when you don't, the way that you can EQ them. And I don't like a lot of mids in my sound. And so I can really get loud with that and still have the clarity that I like. And then I pair it with the Bassman because it kind of gives that little vintage, flompy, on the verge of distortion, but it gives me that mid range that I like without. So I can still have that clarity and have the real warm low end of the Mark bass, and then but have that little kind of. And then that's what the overdrive pedal's connected to. Like when we do like Wolf Den and Brandon's, doing his talk box thing. And so I click sometimes if I remember, and then I'll click on and have a little distortion coming out of the Bassman.
Yeah.
And I have the octave and the delay connected to the Mark bass. So then when we're getting a little, psychedelic, then I can mess with the delay. And then I've got that clean sound that's coming through and being delayed in the octave. So it doesn't get mucky at any point for me. And Brandon, he's such a powerful guitarist, and he likes a lot of low end in his sound as well. And so it's not a challenge because we respect each other's sound, but it's to find our sound together is a lot of low end, and it can really rub wrong if one of our amps is too far or too back. Or so we've created these baffles, and it's like he put plexiglass, and then we got this really cool fabric and wood and stained it and stuff. But his has plexiglass, and then mine is just fabric, so that we can also, if we need to turn up physically on stage, we're not ripping their faces off, and we're not overpowering each other, so he can still hear himself. Because when you're in the setting where we're at right now, it's anywhere from 300 to 1,000 seat rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you need a lot of stage volume, even just as a trio. But if you're too loud and it's just going straight forward, or it's pitched at each other, then you just can't hear each other anymore, and we don't put anything except vocals in the monitors. Like we don't put any drums, any equipment, because being just a trio,
you can hear each other.
I've got Go-Go Ray on the drums, so I hear everything. Yeah. And I love it. I love it because he's such a dynamic player that we can get down to nothing. And it can be literally everybody on 11. But we're still not stepping on each other. And sonically, it makes sense.
Gotcha.
My two favorite basses they're both jazz basses. It's Whitey and Blue. And I got Whitey when I turned 21. And so she's been through some touring and cracks in all the right places, and totally needs a fret job and sounds great. Same strings for a year and a half.
Wow.
And then the new one is the Blue Wash jazz bass that they just came out with. It's the Vintage 2.
Okay.
The American Vintage 2 series, and it was a present from my brother Chris before he passed away from cancer. I had organized a fundraiser and got a lot of bands together, and was able to, through everybody's generosity, we were able to raise enough funds to buy his fiancée a home, because they had twins and a small child. And so he gave that to me as a thank you before he passed. And so I just take it on the road with me everywhere I go now, because it's so. But those, and I love my jazz basses, and I've got I also got the Jack Cassidy Epiphone. Good guitar is limited in the selection because I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
And so like we're on the road, and I find guitars, they're either like $4,000 because they're a vintage, or they're like $100 because they're worthless.
Yeah.
So, when I find a good bass, I try to snatch it up and I play it. And I found the Jack Cassidy. It's like a semi-hollow body, big, huge. It looks like a 335, only a bass.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's really good for like our kind of more edgier, like rock original rock. Like I like playing that on Wolf Den now and stuff. So, but other than that, it's my jazz basses.
Very cool. Well, and as we look forward, plans for the future. My guess is you're going to be touring the album, but tell us a little bit what's in the works.
Yeah. We actually, I just got home from the legendary Rhythm and Blues cruise, which is always an incredible time. But we've got, we're blessed to have quite a few festivals. We're doing Panama in a couple of weeks, and then Curacao at the end of March. We're doing the Greeley Blues Fest in June. We have a huge Northeast tour in April. We've got a festival in Norway, Germany, and Romania in July. Then we're doing like a Northwest run in August, so, we'll come home and we do a lot of driving so that I can be home with my children for half the year. So we work our butts off when we do go out, and we just put in like 6,000 miles in 2 weeks. But we do like 12 shows in 13 days. Wow. And we keep getting stronger as we go on. We do everything as responsibly as we can to take care of our health, and that's the key, is a ton of water and a ton of rest is whenever you can fit it in. So we've got a big year, but I structure it in a way that I can be home and be a great mom to my kids. I have 2 boys. They're turning the corner of 13 and 9. So their lives are going, and we work really hard to make it all work, but it's worth it.
Nice. And if people want to know where to find out where you're going to be, where's the best place for them to look?
DanielleNicoleMusic.com.
Gotcha. And social media wise?
Social media wise, Instagram and TikTok are the 2 best ways. And it's just Danielle Nicole Band. My Facebook was hacked. And so now it's a verified page, and it's a whole nother story, and it's a really big bummer. But I haven't been able to get any help on recovering it. And so I'm just like, all right, well, I'll just be on Instagram and TikTok. So gotcha. Those are the best ways, and my website. But yeah.
Gotcha. Well, Danielle, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule in between touring. I know you need to get rest and spend time with your family. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to listening to the music. Make sure you all check out The Love You Bleed and see Danielle Nicole when she's in a venue near you. Folks, you've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Danielle Nicole.
Thank you so much, Raul, for having me. I appreciate it so much.